You see, normally I could get a train from Manchester, Victoria to Hebden as usual, but unfortunately there's like train track works today, and they're doing a lot of repairs at the train station, which I just noticed last night. So that's why I'm taking like the back ways to get all the way out to Mill Hill, and then from Mill Hill I should be able to get on a train, which surprisingly goes all the way out to Leeds. Like yesterday I could have actually gone there, but like where I was going, Beckett, I was there like 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and I thought, there's no way in hell I would get up to Hebden and I would visit Sylvia Plath's grave. Especially now with like a churchyard getting closed after hours. So it's just past 8:30. I need to get the heck out of Manchester.
The buildings right here look pretty nice, old-fashioned I guess. The old-fashioned movie theatre, aka the Picture House. Footpath to Heptonstall. Yep, this is what I need. And when Sylvia Plath passed away in 1963, they put her body in a box and they took it to a mortuary in Oxford to put it into a coffin. And then they put the coffin on the train from Oxford all the way up to here. And then so she was buried at late February. So, unfortunately, Sylvia's mother was in America at the time of her death and didn't make it to the funeral. So, I believe Sylvia's mother probably did give herself the opportunity to come to England and visit her daughter's grave. But, you know, both of Sylvia's parents are buried in Massachusetts in America. And it's quite a sad story about how Sylvia's dad died when she was 8. And her own mother had to bury her own child. Which is a saying that, you know, no parent should ever have to bury their own children. Because, you know, there are families all around the world, you know, and basically, the children die before the parents, even in adulthood. Just noticed I got a good railing here, but nobody taught me that it was going to be an uphill walk. I don't regret taking the bus. I'm not that kind of guy. Fortunately, there's no walking paths the road down there, so forced to take another bushwalk again. Man. See, this is the type of stuff I don't get to see much in London, unless I go to Richmond or I go to, you know, what's that place up in, Hampstead. Yeah, very leafy in Hampstead Heath. Yes. My feet are stinging a bit because I've just brushed into some poison ivy. Just as long as my hands don't touch it, I'll be fine. For what I'm going through now, I might as well take the bus back into town. You know. Oops, muddy mud, muddy mud, muddy mud. Oh yeah. So I'm all the way up here, and the road over there is down there. So it's much safer for me to be up here rather than walking along that road. I've walked along many roads in my life, you know, and I've always had a feeling that if I walk along a road and there's no footpath, I'm in danger of getting hit by a car. And I've done this in North Richmond. One day I walked from North Richmond station to my mum's house, and then also it was in Bournemouth a couple of years ago. So despite all these thorny bushes, I'm happy to be wearing a suit today to avoid getting scratched or itched or bitten by mosquitoes. But the important thing is that I left Salford today and I've gotten here before lunchtime. And so by the time I reach Sylvia Plath's grave, it should be at least before 1 o'clock, and I need to get back to Manchester before 6 p.m. tonight. Otherwise, I'm going to be stuck here, which I don't want to be stuck here because it's £60 for a one-way ticket on the train, last minute, to go from Manchester to London. And nobody crazy in this country would pay that. Not even a Manchurian, not even a Londoner. So I'm just grateful I live in a country with great coach services. Thank you very much, National Express and Megabus, and also Flixbus, who are starting to run up into the Midlands these days. Well, I'm here where I'm supposed to be, Heptonstall. Just can't believe it. It says visitors and coaches 380 yards that way. So the cemetery is in walking distance, I can feel it. I read online earlier this week that a woman who did not live in this area, who did not live any part of her life in West Yorkshire, she wanted to be buried in the same cemetery as Sylvia Plath. And for anybody who wants to get buried near the heroes, I definitely applaud that. You know, it's like, there was this musician of a punk rock band from America. He died in Paris in a car accident in the 1980s. And simply his girlfriend dumped his ashes on top of Jim Morrison's grave. And I said to my mother last year, I said, Mom, if I die in the United Kingdom, whatever you do not take my body back to Australia. I do not want to be buried in Australia because I hate that country. So please scatter my ashes on top of the grave of Quathron of Bathory in Salzburg Cemetery in Stockholm, Sweden. I only lived a month of my life in Sweden, but I'd like to spend eternity there. If my family doesn't do that when I die, I'm going to be a bit pissed. The Hebden Trail, ancient village explained. So the church is here, and Sylvia must be number 13, new graveyard around here. I just realised I shouldn't be following the tourists, because I don't think a lot of them are here to visit Sylvia Plath's grave. They're just probably here for the hiking, you know? So I need to head in the right direction. Looking that way. Okay, it says there's a museum here. Hebden Cloth Hall. Wow. Oh man. Look at these church ruins. It's like a church burned down or lost its roof over time. So here we got information. St. Thomas, a Beckett church and graveyard. It says the church was damaged in 1947 and they raised £6,666 to repair it in 1854. Instead of being demolished, the elderly building was left to become a ruin. So they just built a new church nearby and left this all to be in ruins. And the graveyard. Briefly mentions Sylvia. In the cemetery across Backland is the grave of American poet Sylvia Plath, first wife and late poet laureate Ted Hughes. He spent his early years nearby Mytho Roy. The old church and its background important historical survivals that provide valuable insights into lives and beliefs of our forebears. I know it's bad luck to be walking on tombstones, but all these graves are from the 19th century. So the way it's written down here, I mean, forgive me for stepping on tombstones, but there's no pathway. So this is how they did back in the day, dumping people's bodies one on top of the other. Remember, that's the old church that was damaged in the 19th century, and then years later, they built a new one, like here. Now all I've got to do is find the grave of Sylvia Plath. It may not be here, but well, it has to be, but maybe there's another cemetery nearby. So we have the Church of England, Thomas A. Beckett, St. Thomas the Apostle Service. To those people who want to visit Sylvia Plath's grave, you have to walk through this whole area, and then you come out through these doors, and then this is the newer cemetery section. So all those graves there, back there, are from the 19th century, and we come across here. We've already got some tourists visiting. And yeah, these are all graves from the 20th century and onwards. Thank you, sir. Just been chatting to locals. And I told them that Ted Hughes' parents is buried nearby. And so here she is, in memory of Sylvia Plath Hughes, 1932 to 1963. Even amidst fierce flames, the golden lotus can be planted. And that is a testament to all. So, here lies one of the greatest poets of all time, one of the greatest authors. Like, you know, in the last, like 58 years, people have came by and have removed the Hughes. They keep vandalizing the Hughes because Ted Hughes wasn't a nice man. And so it's mostly been a lot of people who are supportive of Sylvia Plath. Ted Hughes was cremated and he's actually scattered somewhere else. But there's so much life growing out of Sylvia Plath's grave in honor of her legacy. They plant green plants and figs and shrubs. And like it's like lettuce leaves. I don't know if I could eat that, but I wouldn't. And then people, they come here, they light the candles, they leave their pebbles, and someone has just left some poetry right here. Summer setting silent for the reactor remaining north of the ghost. Summer seasons of heart spreading with green ambience, grown overgrown, a mighty indifferent. Where went the beauty of the relative bounty? Why does it leave me on the age empty? So I'm gonna put this down here, and it's really fitting. Fans are leaving notes
lipstick marks on a piece of paper instead of vandalizing the tombstone. Here it is. Yes. And with a bit of help with my dicky knee, pardon my language, I have found the grave of Ted Hughes' parents. In loving memory of Edith Farrah Hughes and William Henry Hughes, and they both died after Sylvia Plath was buried here in 1963. So it's a strange coincidence that Ted Hughes' parents lay here and Sylvia Plath is buried like all the way over there. And when Ted Hughes died in the 80s, I don't understand why he wasn't buried here, but it would be a huge uproar that if Ted Hughes is buried anywhere near Sylvia. So he had his ashes scattered elsewhere in England. So in honor of the legendary poet Sylvia Plath, I'm going to leave a penny coin on top of her grave in honor of her memory. And I kind of feel it's a bit wicked that someone has actually left a tablet right here. But, you know, it is quite fitting that somebody has left their own medication. So goodbye, Sylvia Plath. God bless you. Your memory will live on for generations of generations of generations of poets, artists, writers, and creative people like myself. I'm quite honored to visit your grave today as someone, who draws inspiration from the people who have gone before me. Rest in peace, Sylvia Plath. God bless. I'll see you in the great gig of the sky. Goodbye. So as I leave behind Sylvia Plath's grave over here, I want to say to you all, for anybody out there watching, be creative, be remarkable in what you do in your life, no matter how long you're going to live. Sylvia Plath is an inspiration to people of all walks of life, of all ages, of all generations, genders, nationalities, creeds, religions, you name it. My housemate was reading The Glass Jar the other day, and I was really flattened to hear that. I said, "You do know that Sylvia Plath is buried a bit of a trip away from London, all the way up in West Yorkshire." And my housemate thought, "Man, that is so cool. I want to go see what the house of Sylvia Plath lived in, or I want to go visit a grave." So, everybody out there, look after yourself. Take good care of one another. I'm Martin the Metalhead. I'm over and out. God bless Sylvia Plath.